Of Johannesburg Transport MMC Kenny Kunene yesterday announced his resignation from the role. Patriotic Alliance President Gayton McKenzie also announced that Kunene is suspended from all party activities until he has been cleared from recent allegations. Now, Kunene was found at the home of murder-accused Katiso TK Molefe while police were making an arrest. Let's discuss Kunene's resignation and whether he has any prospects of clearing his name and returning to public office. Political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi joins us now. Good morning, Professor, and thank you so much for your time.
Hi, good morning, Masichaba, and good morning to the viewers.
Now, Gayton McKenzie posted on X that this is the hardest letter I've ever had to write in my entire life. And for the sake of full transparency, I'm putting it here. In referencing X. So what can you say about this statement, and what does this tell you about their working relationship?
No, it's something good to start with, and I've said it before. South Africans, we respond to situations on the basis of our alliances and how close we are with certain people. And Gayton McKenzie, none the way, will be judged, irrespective of how he responded to this situation. But instead, for the sake of good governance, I think that is the right approach. He mentioned even before, on the day of when these revelations were made, that South Africa knows that he's very close to Kenny Kunene, and he cannot believe that Kenny is involved with the accused, who's facing serious allegations. But at the end of the day, for the sake of good governance, which patriotic this particular or his organization has been advancing, he decided to take this particular decision to suspend Kenny Kunene. That in itself is indicative of what happens. You don't need to be found guilty if you are holding such high office, but such serious allegations has huge reputational damage, not only for the organizations, but for the entire political landscape in South Africa and public service in our country.
So, Professor, would you say that this investigation is a genuine fact-finding, or is it political theater just to legitimize a decision that's already been made?
Well, if it's the decision that has been made by his own party, Kenny Kunene's own party, it's going to be very difficult. We all know what happens behind the scenes, how politicians can back one another. You scratch my back, I will scratch yours. That is something else. And I mean, one can never, for sure, for certainty, say that, for instance, internal party processes are above board when it comes to good governance. But from the side of the municipality, yet again, we're talking about another level, another institution where we know in the past that some of our municipalities, the difficulties that they also face in terms of good governance. But at least that is now outside of the parameters of his own political party, and perhaps that investigation will lead to clearing his name or pointing to that in any case, perhaps there are allegations or evidence that he should be completely removed from his position.
Now, speaking of being removed from his position, I mean, in our poll question this morning, we are basically asking our audience to let us know. I mean, do you think, and I'll pose it to you, do you think that Kenny Kunene should return to public office if cleared?
Well, everyone should be afforded that opportunity if he wants to. But remember, you are going to battle. He may return to his political party, but the moment if he is going to return to public office, that's where I think he's going to battle to get rid of the cobwebs. And remember what I say, public opinion carries a lot of weight. And one will still want to see how this will damage the chances of a party which I think is slowly growing. We've seen by the by-elections outcomes that the party led by Gayton McKenzie is definitely making significant inroads in the South African political landscape. And his decision to return to office obviously will have some implications.
Now, Kenny Kunene is the deputy president of the Patriotic Alliance, right? So how significant is this position in the party's power structure?
No, it's very significant because the question is now, it depends on the duration of these investigations. And obviously, in the meantime, somebody else will have to take over the work that he has been doing. And you know, sometimes caretaker positions also creates ambitions and where people now suddenly will want to jockey for that position or contest that position when the party holds its elective conference. Hopefully that will not come to that, but this is also a democracy in action, and one cannot wish that away. But going forward, I think if I was a PA member, I would have been tremendously proud to say, yes, we don't just preach that we act against corruption, we act strongly against serious allegations that will bring the party into disrepute. But yeah, we've got an example of a senior, and not only a senior member of the party, but a close ally of the president, and yet this kind of action it's been taken. This should be business as usual in South Africa with people who are holding public office, and we should not prolong this with commissions of inquiries and all that, where people themselves say, for the sake of the ethical fiber of the organization, I will step aside up until I am being cleared.
And is it commendable that he has decided to step aside? I mean, whether it was of his own will or because he didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, well, it's commendable, and I think perhaps it was quite easier for the president to persuade him, and this is now clearly persuasion behind the scenes to demonstrate to perhaps or to Kenny what are the implications for the organization going forward, because I think history would have judged them. I mean, we're on the eve of local government elections, and soon thereafter we will be holding our general elections, and people would ask questions when you know, you peddle around in your election manifestos issues of good governance, and they would have used this as a reference point. So it is commendable, and I often say when such decisions are taken, it doesn't only affect the party, but it once again, you know, consolidates what we have in our country in terms of our democracy, and it demonstrates that it can be done without, you know, any shred of doubt, and having serious implications for those who are involved in such serious allegations.
And what does this mean for coalition politics in Johannesburg, where every councillor vote matters? I mean, will the PA submit a new candidate to fill Kunene's seat? What's the actual process?
No, the process it's quite clear. The PA will be, but mostly when a councillor resigns, there had to be by-elections. It's not where you can just now nilly-gritty change a councillor, and surely the PA will then obviously nominate somebody else who will stand to contest that position within the council.
All right. Now, will this move strengthen the PA's reputation? And could it potentially boost public trust in the party's ability to take decisive action?
No, South Africa has not yet reached that stage where we punish politicians. After 30 years of democracy, we still battle with that. Yes, to a certain extent, there are people who based their decisions, political decisions, in terms of affiliation, in terms of who they vote, on the basis of these damaging issues, ideologies, and all that. But most South Africans still flock along identity politics. I am this particular individual, I'm from this race, and irrespective of what happens within my party, I will still vote for my party. That's where we are currently in terms of South Africa. So I don't see that en masse. We will now have a situation where perhaps even PA members will leave the party, or some people will decide not to vote for the party on the basis of this allegation.
And Kunene has been quite visible in media and public forums. How important has he been to the PA's brand and messaging, particularly in Johannesburg? And also, what are your thoughts about the fact that both Mackenzie and Kunene are actual convicted criminals?
No, I've got no thoughts, and I mean they've been very clean, and we've seen how the minister are making jokes about that from time to time when he addresses South Africans. So they are over that particular part. We know their history, and I think those who voted for PA and are still members of this organization knows the history of their leaders. But going forward. I strongly believe that they have now demonstrated that perhaps they can dictate terms in terms of how they navigate all the slippery slopes of political governance in South Africa. This is still a young party in South African terms, and for them to grow, they need to, along the line, demonstrate that they have rid themselves of the cobwebs of criminality. But going forward, and we've already seen the pressure coming from the Democratic Alliance that there should be investigations, and one can just wish that nothing untoward will be found in the outcome of these investigations, because that for me, if there are credible evidence that he was involved in any kind of corruption, I think that for me will be very damaging for the image of Gayton Mackenzie's party, and also to the relationship of these two politicians.
All right. Now, Professor, I'd like us to talk about this developing story in Parliament. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party has written to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Didiza, to table a motion of no confidence in President Ramaphosa. Now, the party is also pushing for the vote to be done by secret ballot, saying this would protect the integrity of the voting process and protect members of Parliament from intimidation. Now, do you think the Speaker will actually grant the MK party's request for a secret ballot?
Yeah, well, we've seen this movie before where ATM in the past and many other political parties have tried that avenue of, and which is their democratic right, by the way, and the same applies to Umkhonto weSizwe. But we all know how partisan our speakers are. But also when they apply their minds, and if the constitution allows that, and the rules and regulations of parliament, in this instance, I strongly believe that perhaps there will be a push to go for a secret vote from the speaker. But we should not be surprised if MK put their foot down and perhaps wants to take the legal route on this particular matter.
Now, if she denies the secret ballot request, could this be seen as protecting President Ramaphosa rather than following proper parliamentary procedure?
No, obviously, when you refused a request, there had to be reasons tabled, and we know we've seen in the past how some speakers have, argued to say, but we've always opened by the raise of a hand and or a secret ballot. So there is nothing different with this particular situation. And yes, opinions, as I've indicated, will forever remain, and any debate, that subsequent debates that will follow such a vote of no confidence that will take place in Parliament will obviously be littered by remarks that we've got speakers who are protecting the president instead of advancing and protecting South African citizens.
Now, before I let you go, Professor, and very briefly, we know that there are significant internal tensions within the ANC regarding the Government of National Unity, particularly around the coalition with the DA. Could a secret ballot actually provide cover for ANC MPs who are unhappy with Ramaphosa's leadership to vote against him without facing party discipline?
No, I don't think so, because the danger of voting against your own party leader is you don't know what's going to happen and where you will sit. Remember, some of our politicians are career politicians, and so they would want to protect whatever political interest they have. Yes, some of them, one or two, may vote, but I don't believe that ANC parliamentarians will now come out and vote against their own president. Remember, also, if you look at the composition of that parliament, they are pro the president, and I don't foresee a situation where ANC members will vote against the president.
Professor, thank you so much for your time.